Welcome to Cherry Bomb in the We Are Still Dealing with the Coronavirus edition. As we are continuing to deal with the fallout from that in the US, we also were hit kind of hard this week when we lost two very important and significant civil rights leaders. We lost C.T. Vivian and also John Lewis this week. So that has been something that we've all just kind of been looking at and reflecting on. So that's been interesting because for me, that reminds me of the movement that we're still in. And so it's so interesting to see those lights kind of dim as these other lights of civil rights start to burn brighter and come alive. So that's how I'm choosing to see it. What about you all?
I just think 2020 right now is fucking trash. It's trash. I hate that all these things are happening so much, so it's frustrating. However, I'm grateful for the upliftment and the people fighting back, and that there's an uprising happening. And I don't think it could happen without all the other things happening to create a crucible. Every time I see a new thing between like these very heavy things, I'm wishing that they rest in power. They gave us literally their entire lives in work for our freedom and our liberation, like up until the day they died, like they were doing stuff in like hospital rooms to still fight for our freedom, which is incredible. And then I'm looking at like meth alligators and like bubonic plague bunnies and all kinds of stuff. I was like, what is 2020 Writers Room doing and why? Like, why? It's too much. You're doing too much. You could have stuck with just one of those subplots. This is all too much.
Yeah, I love those things you see online all the time. It's like, did anyone have this in their 2020 expectations? Like, did anyone guess this was going to happen in 2020? No. Yeah, it's a sad time. HRC did a really great video. They put together a really great thing of John Lewis's life, for sure. I just watched that this morning again. It was such a beautiful tribute.
Yeah.
There's a documentary too.
Yeah, and like a graphic novel. But we'll connect some links to more information about C.T. Vivian as well as John Lewis in our show. So to get on to what we are planning on talking about today, we are talking about, you know how you have the love language? We're talking about the language of apology. What language of apology suits you best as an individual? So what do you need to hear in an apology to feel like you've been apologized to?
Wait a second, let's introduce ourselves first for people who don't know who we are. We're assuming most of you at this point are coming because you love us and you know us, but for those that don't.
I'm Gloria Bigelow.
Nikki Castor.
Dalila Ali Raja.
I'm Tatum Durock.
Bethany Landing.
Yes.
Apology languages.
Yeah, so apology language. So I didn't know that this was a thing until you all sent me the link. But
Same.
After I took the test, I was like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense.
Same.
Yeah, my therapist.
Yeah.
My therapist was the one who was like, you may want to go and take this test and see what the thing is. And there's 5 of them, just like there are love languages.
Yeah.
There's expressing regret, like I'm sorry, accepting responsibility, I was wrong, making restitution, what can I do to make this right, genuinely repenting, I'll try not to do that again, and requesting forgiveness, will you please forgive me? Those are the 5.
That requesting forgiveness seems a little bit extreme to me. Do any of you all have that as yours?
No, but it don't feel extreme. It feels like it wasn't enough. That's the reason why I didn't get that on any of them questions. I was like, you requesting forgiveness. I need you to acknowledge you did some wrong shit. I need you to apologize for that wrong shit. And then I need you to tell me that you ain't gonna do that wrong shit again, which is why I need you to acknowledge it, because I think if you know it, then, so I felt like a lot of those answers were not enough for me. And I also need you to repeat it. That's not one of the ones that's listed, but I need you to repeat your apology.
So
I need to hear it several times.
let's go into the details. But before we do,
Gloria's face.
let's just go through and just say what ours was, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what's yours?
So mine was expressing regret.
Mine was also expressing regret.
Genuinely repenting.
Genuinely repenting.
Mine was expressing regret.
Nice.
Mine was also.
Oh!
I will say, I would be in the right circumstances. I want somebody to do all that shit. I want, like, I ain't never gonna do it again. I'm requesting your forgiveness. What I mean, like, obviously regret, that's the one I say. Like, I can't believe I did something so shitty. I need all of that to be said. Every one of those things at some point need to be done.
I felt like when I read it, there were about two that I'm like, oh, this sounds like the beginning of the conversation, and this sounds like it goes at the end, or they're linked together.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what it is, though. I'll tell you what I am not about. Don't try to make shit up to me. Don't try to don't try to make it up. Like, that's so off-putting. There was a few that I was like, fuck you, that's out of the question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And then the other ones, I'm like, it's the sincerity, it's the ownership, and it's the honesty. It's the sincerity to take ownership and say, I am sorry.
Did you find it different between work answers and partner answers, or like family answers?
I thought it was a little bit different for me because the intimacy of a relationship, more so I feel like than a work relationship, the intimate partner needs to do the same things, but to like sort of a high level of that. Whereas I want a coworker to sort of recognize that they did something and express that regret. But the repetitiveness of it, Dalila, like you said, they need to, like, my partner needs to do it like 100 times if it was bad. You know what I mean? Like, it needs to be a lot. Whereas a coworker, I wouldn't really expect that of them. So
I wouldn't expect the oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just, I wanted to like say what some of the qualities are in the expressing the regret.
Mm-hmm.
Since so many of us had this and what spoke to me about it. So it says that it zeroes in on the emotional hurt of it, of what happened, and then it admits of guilt or shame or for causing pain to another person. So it's like acknowledging, like, I see that I hurt your feelings and I regret hurting your feelings. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like seeing it and acknowledging it. I think that that part of it is what spoke to me the most. Yeah, and the idea that you want to, you know, rebuild that, repair and rebuild. Yeah.
It's interesting. Oh, go ahead, Tatum.
Yeah, I think the bit that isn't in it is that I would expect someone to listen until I am finished, like relaying what the impact was.
Right.
Because I think with any of these, they can just be used as a script. And when you feel like someone's hurrying you, and they're like, you know, yeah, I know what I did was wrong. I see that it caused you some pain, but, you know, I'm not going to do it again in the future. And you're like, oh, like you're technically saying the right things, but you interrupted me or you've rushed me and I haven't actually gotten to express why that was so damaging or why that was really painful.
Part of that is that, so you can't really apologize for the hurt if you haven't heard what the hurt was. Like, if you don't get the full spectrum of how I received that and why that hurt and what that felt like. So you can't really apologize for like what it is until you really understand what it is. Yeah.
I mean, I was looking because I was trying to see when you were listing all the stuff for the regret, it sounded super similar to the repent, but I think genuinely repenting is the regret plus a commitment to change. And that's super important to me, is that I need a commitment to actually change the behavior and not do something again. So like genuinely repenting is like, I feel really terrible. I recognize the hurt. I recognize what it's causing you. And I'm verbalizing that I'm going to make a change about this behavior so that it doesn't happen again. And that may take time, but that's what I'm trying to do, is change it.
I don't need the other person to feel bad. Like, I don't need them to feel bad about what
Maybe
they
I do.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it makes it more likely that they will change. I think like for them to feel something about it, like to understand that they hurt me and for that to affect them, that they hurt me, so that they don't want to do it again.
Yeah. See, I think that's where repent to me sounds like, for me, yeah. To me, it feels like a bridge too far. But I see how that could, you know, the logic of where you're going with that.
Yeah, I get the logic of that too, because I'm all about change of behavior, and believe me, like where I started in my relationship, we had different ways of that ultimately ended up changing, because the way that she offered it, I was not buying. I was like, that's not the way that doesn't work for me, right? I don't want you to try to make shit up. I don't want you to try to make it better. I just want you to, I intuitively want to feel the sincerity and the depth that you get me, and it's not going to happen again, and just own it and just be honest. And because I fuck up, and then I'm like, okay, I didn't need to say it like that. I'm sad about this. It came out as anger like this, and I'm sorry, you don't deserve to be treated that way. So I'm sorry I did that.
Yeah.
So that there's intuitively I see and sense it's sincere, and that we're going forward feeling like I don't want her to feel bad either, because I grew up Catholic and I don't need the guilt and the shame. I have nothing to feel bad about. I'm so loving, and if I do, then I'm gonna own it, and then it's gonna dissolve because it's so sincere that now I'm not saying that for the other person, but ultimately that's the best I can do, right? Yeah. So yeah, I like to feel intuitively like we get it, we're on the same page, and we're clean, we're on fair ground, we're loving again, we're on the same team, and let's go forward and have it be different if anything comes up.
I don't know if it's a guilt or shame thing, it's a understanding that they hurt me, and to feel something about that, like to feel like not yummy about having hurt my feelings. I don't think shame, Brene Brown has an interesting thing about like the difference between shame and guilt, and that shame is not a useful emotional tool to hold, because it has us hide things, it keeps things in the shadows, and it doesn't leave space for change. Whereas guilt is actually a much more, if you're going to have one of them, it's a more productive thing, because if you feel guilty about it, you take an action on it to change something and to shift it. But I don't even know if I need those particular emotions, other than like a deep empathy that they get that it was painful and that they actually want to do something different. I think that there has to be something that says that this is not just an apology that you walk away from and then you're going to keep doing the same thing and then apologizing again.
Yeah. I think what I hear,
sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say what I've heard everybody kind of say is like, don't pass the buck, like don't blame it on something else, right? And don't blame it on someone or something else. Like,
I don't think any of us said that. I didn't hear anybody say that, but I don't think I would be okay with that. It wouldn't make me feel comfortable, but I don't think that was articulated. It's more like taking responsibility, but I don't know. It seems like you guys have an easier way with like releasing after the end of the apology in some sort of way, whereas I think I need more of something given to it over time to show me demonstratively that you get it and that you're trying to do something different. And I don't think I'd always mind somebody making up something. It's interesting because the first time I took this test a long time ago, it was acts of restitution is what I got as my first one, which I thought was actually interesting, because I don't think of myself as that person.
I do.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
What were you going to say, Tatum?
I was going to say, I actually have been in relationships where we've kind of, I've asked if we can take "I'm sorry" off the table, like the words "I'm sorry," because I think with a lot of people, there's a power play on both sides. That apologies can be used for this kind of exchange of power, and if the apology comes too soon, if someone knows that they can, and sometimes people feel like they're losing power, so they won't listen to you because they don't want to apologize, because they think, well, I want to express my point of view. And sometimes someone can hurt you but have a really legitimate reason that they were, not thinking, or they were whatever, and they want to also explain to you where their head was at. But for some reason, I think sometimes saying "I'm sorry" disempowers people. So not everyone, but I've kind of taken it off the table, and what that did was it opened it up to being able to use other words, and it opened it up to the listening to what we needed, as opposed to the kind of the wrongdoer and the wronged, because I think that's quite a binary. It just feels like you're opposing, as opposed to, oh shit, we were like worlds apart, but let's come back together in the conversation.
I think "I'm sorry" is really overused as well. I think that we say that in so many different instances for everything, and I just feel like it's such a throwaway. It's difficult to know how genuine that is by just saying "I'm sorry." Like, I need it to get a little deeper. I found it interesting in, going through the divorce that I'm going through now. And this was particularly, interesting topic for me. And it's sort of why that I looked up to do this, is because my therapist said, you might want to find out, like, what's your apology language? And I was like, my what? Because I've always known the love language. My love language is acts of service. It is hands down. And it's like, that's what, because I love people to acknowledge some shit needs to get done and frickin' do it. And then I'm like, oh my God, this is wonderful. And so I just love that. But I didn't really know what my apology language was. And I found that when the big thing went down with my ex-husband, when I found out that he had cheated, it was like nothing he did was the right apology. There wasn't even an apology, really. It was just sort of like, now we're 6-7 months past when it happened, and he's finally expressing regret now. Like nothing before that, everything before that just felt like nothing. It felt like air. It was just like, whoa, what are you even doing? The nothing you're saying is anything near what you need to say. And so finally it's like a little bit of regret. It doesn't do him any good. It's done. But, it's sort of a little bit nice to hear that he realizes that he's made a big mistake. And then he wanted the list of things that he could do to get me back. I'm like, no, some things are too big.
Yeah, totally.
But with the regret, I feel like there's an acknowledgement of like what the wrongdoing or what the act was that hurt. I feel like with that part of like regretting it, in order to regret it, you have to like see it and know it and understand it in order to be able to regret it. So the regret still to me has like the emotional, I think it actually has the emotional component of like the feeling something, because I feel like, when you feel regret, you know what I mean? Like, when you feel like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. That's what the feeling is. I wish I hadn't done that.
It feels so light though for something, depending on what the thing is that the person's done. Like just, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Bitch.
No.
You wish you hadn't done.
No.
You know what? You need to fucking.
No. See how I'm doing it? I'm saying like, I wish I hadn't done that. You're like, I wish I had. No, see, that's like the difference of the feeling. To me, like, I wish I hadn't done that feels like inside, like right here. I feel that like.
I agree. And I think these are pillars. These are like 5 pillars. And obviously there's much more depth and discernment between real relationships, because nobody knows anybody's relationship that's intimate, what they've created amongst each other, and what sorry means or doesn't mean. And also the form of communication in general is a dynamic that is created. So these are pillars, and I think they're great pillars. But there's so much more depth and detail in each of them.
Well, the thing is, and also I said, I had no idea that this was a thing until you all sent this. And I realized that me and my person have 2 totally different things on this. You know what I mean? So mine is like expressing regret, and theirs is the accept responsibility, which is like, I was like, my mind, but once I read what it was, I was like, oh yeah, that is yours. That is definitely yours. Yeah, that's yours. But I never knew why, when there was conflict, those things weren't going through. Like I'm thinking I'm doing my thing. I'm expressing my regret, I was, but that's not going to go through if it's somebody who needs, need to accept.
This is my fault. They need to hear, this is my fault.
This is my fault. I did something bad.
Yeah.
I was wrong. Yeah.
Totally.
It's almost like you have to give the memo to your partner of what yours is, and your partner needs to understand the other direction, because it doesn't matter what you want to say to express regret or any of that. It matters what they want to hear.
Yeah.
So they feel kind of how the love languages work too. Sure. It's like you could be screaming, I love you in a language they don't speak, and they just won't hear it,
Yeah. Like, I don't need
sorry.
I don't need flowers. I don't need presents. That does you no good for me. That feels like in the love language thing that's about giving gifts and stuff. That's totally not me. Like, I'm like, I don't need any of that, but
that's close.
Yeah.
None of yours, right?
Yeah, that's one of mine, because my father was very into gift giving.
Oh, that's
how when people, if they're thinking about you, so they buy you little things, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want that in an apology though. That's
No.
what's interesting, because like you can't apologize to me by like bringing me flowers and not saying like expressing regret. You know what I mean? Like that it doesn't match for me. Like you did something wrong and so you gave me a gift. To me, that doesn't like.
Yeah,
me,
that doesn't.
yeah, he beats his wife, buys flowers. I'm like, what? No, that doesn't, like, that's not sorry.
Right.
Doesn't
I
work.
feel like that's kind of like in younger relationships, but that could be just my, like, the, you know, I'm like late teens, early 20s, and someone messes up, but then they take you out for a really nice dinner, or they like, you know what I mean? And you kind of go, okay, like, it's not really an exchange, but I'll accept it. You know, I think that it comes
that's how I
to
kind of feel.
like, actually, this isn't going to fly for that long. It can be fun for a period of time, but I'm not sure like long term.
That needs to not be the only thing. Like, I'll take you to dinner. Take me to dinner and bring me some motherfucking flowers. Do
I
it.
think,
But I
fair
need to also express regret, not do this shit again.
yeah, but it's fair to say it's what they've learned, right? That's what they've learned, right? They probably haven't learned that form of communication. It's also what they learned from their caregivers. That's what they learned. That was what was done to them.
And they may also not know how to express. Like, there's a part of the challenge is like if somebody has a different communication style than you have, it's very difficult, I think, sometimes for people to actually say the things. And then some people really feel like, my partner's culture is German, and I don't know if this is for all Germans, but she's just like, what am I apologizing for? Like, it's like a thing of like not apologizing about most things. It's like sometimes they're except I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. I didn't mean to do that. I'll try, like those things, but it's like actually saying I'm sorry feels overused somehow for them, and they're like, why would I do that? And I'm like,
Why?
You better find a way.
Yeah, because I think everybody's, has their own way. But for me, that's like acknowledging, that's like part of acknowledging something. It's like, like for me, if I'm walking in a store and I step on somebody's foot, I don't just walk by, I turn around and I say, I'm sorry I stepped on your foot, because I know that probably hurt them. So that to me is why, like you say, like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But, I think as women, I don't know if
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, we tend to go to I'm sorry before we've actually said where we were coming from, especially in a work situation.
Hello.
Sorry?
Before women even sometimes allow themselves to have a voice, they're like, I'm sorry, I want to talk.
Yeah, completely. And we so disempower ourselves with apologizing, especially in work situations. Because the thing is, even if no one thought it was your fault, because you said I'm sorry, you didn't mean it was your fault. Sometimes you just mean, oh, I'm sorry this situation occurred. They'll just blame you because you said the words I'm sorry. So it's this apportion of blame. And I wonder if culturally, or as things go from one language into another, why I'm sorry can carry like extra things. I remember being on air reading the news and I tripped on my words. It's my first radio job, and I said I'm sorry. At the end of my newscast, the program director flew in the room and screamed at me, never, ever apologize on air. Like, you say, excuse me, and you move on, because you lose everything when you say you're sorry. You lose any kind of, we went on a radio station that there was a lot of integrity anyway. Oliver North was on that radio station. Like, there was no integrity, but he still screamed at me for daring to apologize. So yeah, I learned that lesson like really harshly.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just think that's so fascinating, because as we are living under the regime that we're under right now, one of the things that I notice is that this person does not apologize or acknowledge mistakes.
Ever.
And to me, there's grace in being able to acknowledge a mistake, and there's grace in that. So I just like to see where we are right now as a country is like that mindset of like, you don't want to lose power. instead of seeing as like there is power in grace. So interesting.
Yeah. It's such a different way of looking at power. And I also think, and I think that this is probably too, maybe I've been trained into this because of past relationships with people with narcissistic tendencies, that need for multiple apologies. Maybe because a lot of people with narcissistic tendencies have trouble apologizing. They don't like to take responsibility for things. So it takes a lot more repetition for people who have that way of thinking to actually get doing something different into their brain. Like it literally takes time. Like just therapists will tell you they're notoriously hard to treat. It's all these things. It's like they have to have it, and it often takes months, sometimes years, for them to get certain things in if they've seen it another way. So because I've had many experiences that way, that may be why I need the experience that I have around it. And for sure, the person running this regime is for sure a narcissist.
Like, I was going to say, grace is definitely not a word that's ever been used during this administration and under any circumstance.
But I love the word, and I agree completely.
It's
with
a great
her.
word.
I also do question if someone gives a really good apology. If it's too slick, that will raise all kinds of alarm bells for me. Like, I'd actually prefer someone stumble a little bit because it looks like they haven't done it all the time. You know what I mean? But people who are really good and you end up going, oh, there's nothing more I can say, they've covered it, that are too charming, that are too slick, like they've apologized too much, they've gotten too good at it.
I actually appreciate that. That means that when they've made mistakes, they've often practiced actually expressing regret and fixing it. Like, everybody makes mistakes. If they're able to give like a full good apology, like a really, like where you take responsibility, do all the things, then I appreciate that they're at least aware and that they may actually be changing their behavior and they're taking that seriously.
Do you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of like thinking about like where we are in life right now and how we're having this uprising and this idea of folks who are trying to become more anti-racist and who are trying to like now get into this realm of combating racism, is the idea of like people make mistakes. You know what I mean? Like, people may not always say the right thing, but just like having that growth mindset on both sides, right? So like, I don't expect you to always get it right. You know what I mean? And the person who is, you know, trying to learn how to become more anti-racist, or who's trying to like really get into the realm, to give them to know that they're not always going to get it right. So to be able to say like, I apologize, I didn't get that right, and this is what, and grow from it, you know, like that growth mindset. So you have that growth mindset in like the struggle, and then you have that growth mindset in like your relationship. Like, it doesn't have to be punitive. Like, what's next? I acknowledge it and let's grow from that, you know?
And I think that so many people have issues around that, which like gets them so stuck, because I think because there is such a resistance to this idea of apologizing, you know, or it comes out like, you know, as a defense mechanism. Oh,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
Defense.
You know?
It's the same thing, relationships, the struggle, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of awkward place in the middle of sensing that you've offended someone, maybe not entirely understanding it, but actually going, okay, so in this moment, I may not understand the full context, but like, how do I navigate the fact that I've hurt someone, instead of telling that person, you can't be upset because I didn't mean it. Like, which is what people do all the time. It's terrible.
I mean, all relationships are built on trust, and having a grounding and a sense of vulnerability to express that, feeling the sense of giving your, you know, just being exposed, actually builds trust. And, you know, you don't have to be seen. It also relinquishes control, trying to be seen in a certain light, and actually, again, builds trust to be seen as you are, and to build these stepping stones of just human I don't even want to say error, but like heart to heart connection, where you can, that's where you grow. But there's got to be a sense of openness, you know, a sense of openness somewhere to build and to grow in a relationship.
Yeah. That's like that vulnerability stuff that Brene talks about.
Yeah, and I love me some Brene Brown. I really do. This
Do
is
you
interesting because
think
I'm sorry.
yourselves- do you think of yourselves as being good apologizers?
Well, I thought that I was until I realized I wasn't apologizing in the right language.
Layla said,
Yeah, I feel like I have gotten better at it, because I feel like I have more recently wanted the desire to have someone be better at it. So I've kind of recognized that in myself. I'm like, oh, I need to apologize better. I need to express regret, even more deeply than I think I have before. So yeah, I think I've learned some lessons from that. Yeah. What takeaways or what lessons do you guys have about what we've done today? And are you a good apologizer?
I think sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. My partner hasn't actually taken the test. I actually would be interested to see what their answer is, because I actually don't off the top of my head know. Like looking at it, I wouldn't be able to like just pinpoint exactly what it is, because I don't know what it feels like on the inside for her. I think I'm much better at it now, like for instance with my kid, than I have, like I try and take responsibility for things if I've messed up as a parent or haven't honored something or have missed something or whatever. But I don't know if I'm always as good at it in relationships. But my kid also expresses like what they need very clearly around that kind of thing. So I can like hear what he says around what he needs, and then I can mirror that back,
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Takeaways. I think the thing about vulnerability in relationships is definitely a thing. I think it's interesting that Gloria kind of connected that with the anti-racism movement that's happening right now, because I think that there is an aspect that in relationships we don't always talk about around repair, that I actually think around the anti-racism movement we actually need for it to even be possible for BIPOC people to be vulnerable in that journey. But I also think that the grace for allowing people growth space is also something that's important. So it's like something in the middle there with the repair and the growth is super important. And I think shows up differently than it shows up in one-on-one relationships.
Any other takeaways?
I think that for apologizing, just begin with sincerity. As far as like being a good apologizer or not, I do the best I can, right? And so I feel like I start with what I know and where I'll take responsibility, and acknowledge that if I've hurt her feelings or someone's feelings, and to see, and then I listen so I can learn to understand what else, and then I take ownership of that, of understanding and building the bridge with love, so that I can do it different,
Yeah.
And so I think just for the takeaways, I think it's always fun to learn about yourself if you haven't taken the test, and it's fun to learn more about your partner or even your close friends, and gain an understanding so that your relationship can be richer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think my ability to apologize correlates to how safe I feel. So I think that if I'm in a very comfortable situation, but I do think that if I feel like I need to protect myself for some reasons, that early training, like I will say I won't do that again, but I think it still goes in that kind of, but it's like, I don't feel safe to like say the words I'm sorry. So yeah, I'm kind of a little in and out depending on what's going on.
Yeah, I think my takeaway is now that we've both taken that test to look at like what accepting responsibility really looks like, so that when I think I'm communicating in my language, and I want to figure out how to communicate better in their language.
Yeah.
Because they don't have that on Google Translate, right?
No, it doesn't. Like when I say, oh my gosh, oh no, that really means like, I'm sorry, I accept responsibility. I was wrong. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh my
That
God.
would be a good app for someone to invent. Translate people's love languages, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You put in what you want to say, and then it gives you what that would be in the other love languages. Actually, that really would be a good app. Did we get everybody's takeaways? Beth, did you give yours?
Oh, did I? I thought I did. I guess I didn't. I was just talking about if I was a good apologizer. The takeaways for me is something I meant to ask you guys too, is that are there things that are not able to be forgiven? And I feel like there are. Which could be another day we can talk about. But my takeaway is definitely that I want to be with someone, if we're talking about from the partner's perspective, I want to be with someone who's willing to understand my love language. My love language, I'm sorry, my apology language, because it's just as important as the everyday love stuff as the apology stuff. You know, they're both so equally important. And I think that that's my takeaway as we're talking about this. You guys are so in tune. I love how in tune you guys are with what you need, and I want to get better at that too.
With what you're saying, just to add with what you're saying, love, from in the heart chakra, forgiveness is part of that, right? Releasing the grief, having this unconditional love. Mm-hmm. Forgiveness is a form of love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can forgive a motherfucker though, and then keep them at a distance. You can forgive them over there.
Let go. That's 100% true.
And cheers to that.
Eventually.
Cheers.
Love you, ladies.
Love you too.